This past week, PEN America, the nonprofit dedicated to protecting the freedom to read and write, released its latest report on the state of book bans all across the U.S. And the data is staggering. They found that 3,743 unique titles were banned in public schools across the country in the 2024-2025 school year. 44% of banned books feature characters or people of color, the largest percentage ever found by PEN. 29% of the books that were banned are nonfiction, which is more than double the percentage from the previous year. These book bans are happening all across the country, and it can be hard to wrap your head around what they might look like or how to fight them. So let's look at just one example, the community of Grapevine, Colleyville in Texas. In 2023, my friend Mike Hixenbaugh and I worked on an investigative podcast about the anti-trans and anti-CRT movement in Grapevine. Under the oversight of conservatives on the school's district and their board of trustees, the Grapevine Colleyville Independent School District restricted books that discussed topics including so-called critical race theory and gender identity. Students fought back by starting their own banned book club, kind of like the one that Allie runs on this show. And now, 3 years later, the families of the Grapevine Colleyville Independent School District, they're taking their education back. In Board of Trustees elections held this week, 3 incumbent trustees backed by the far-right conservative PAC Patriot Mobile lost their seats, ending the right-wing majority on their board. It will take time to undo the damage already done by these book bans, but it's a reminder that change doesn't only move in one direction. After a quick break, I'm going to speak to 2 mothers from the Grapevine Colleyville School District who took the lead in turning things around there. We're going to be right back. And joining me now are 2 Grapevine Colleyville Independent School District mothers, Kimberly Phoenix and Rachel Wall. Wall also sits as an executive board member on the Texas Public Education Defense Fund. Kimberly, I'm going to start with you because I stood with you reporting on election nights as you had tears in your eyes and you worried about what was coming for all the students in your district, your own kids. So how does it feel now, years later, to see this reversal?
I felt really good the other night. It's been 3 years. It's been a lot of work. We wondered if this would ever happen, and we worked really hard. We worked really hard to keep our community aware of what was going on, of really making sure that everyone in Grapevine, Colleyville, and Euless, where our students come from, letting them know all of the different things that are going on in our district, that, these culture wars were just, they were just put out there as like the boogeyman to hide a lot of things that our board majority had been doing to decimate our school district. We've lost 2 superintendents. We don't have a superintendent right now. We've lost a massive number of teachers. And this year they announced they were closing 2 schools. And that feels like that's the thing that finally got people's attention. And so they finally realized, like, all the things that we've been saying for 5 years, really, right, was that this wasn't about books. This wasn't about CRT. It wasn't about LGBTQIA. It wasn't about your taxes, really. Well, it's kind of, but right. It's about weakening the public school system. And that's what we were always trying to get people to understand, was their goal is to have smaller, weaker public school systems for our kids. And so this was a huge, huge win for us, and we're very excited, but we have a lot of work in front of us because the damage that's been done over the past 3 years, it's going to take us way more than 3 years to get it back.
Rachel, for people who may not be familiar, part of what drove this entire strategy here and the messaging around it was this PAC that backed the right-wing school board members, Patriot Mobile. They're technically a cell phone company, and I found in my years of covering this, people were always confused. So how does a cell phone company associated with right-wing politics start to care about school boards? Can you help explain what was going on there?
Yeah, it was a way for them to funnel dark money into our district so that there wasn't really clear indication of who was calling these shots. And So there were other things we saw prior to Patriot Mobile, not on that scale. We saw just politicians. Jonathan Stickland was funneling money over. Then there was a PAC with donations from people that lived outside of GCISD, but we could have never seen, I don't think, Patriot Mobile coming. They came in. We don't really know. They poured hundreds of thousands of dollars into school board elections in our town, and then the first year into 3 other school districts in North Texas. And I don't think we could have seen that coming. We don't know where that money comes from still. We don't know the source of that. We have a very good idea just from what's going on in the state of Texas, but we don't know the source of that. And it just drives these culture wars that are really dividing our community and covering up what's going on, what's really happening in our schools, which is we're losing opportunities for our kids, and not every child has the opportunity to be safe at school. So,
Kim, what have these book bans, these messages done to your own kids and to their friends, their classmates? When people hear just the numbers, thousands of books banned, many of them involving characters of color or queer characters, a lot of them are nonfiction, it can feel very abstract. But what did it mean for real young children trying to learn in public school?
Yeah. Well, we've had a declining enrollment in GCISD, which, you're going to hear that there's declining enrollment in lots of school districts. And there is. Since the pandemic, lots of public school systems have lost students to homeschooling and to charter schools and to private schools. But GCISD has lost more students percentage-wise than the average loss in the state of Texas. And some of those students, not all of them, but some of those students certainly have left for reasons that have to do with their kids not feeling safe. And some of them have left because of the reduction in academic opportunities. People that are saying, if our kids can't read above level books, or if our kids aren't getting certain classes offered to them because of teachers leaving, it's all of these things are intertwined. I think that's the thing people kind of miss. They think, well, it's just about, a few hundred books in our high school or something like that. But when we take books out of the high school library, and then we take books out of teachers' classrooms, then teachers don't feel safe. And then when teachers don't feel safe, they leave, and they maybe completely change their career path, or they go to a private school, or they go someplace else where they feel safe. And then that impacts where parents decide to send their students, because they're like, well, if I'm only, my students only getting access to teachers that are first and second year teachers. So that has an impact. When we have less students, then you have less classes, because the funding model in the state of Texas is based on enrollment. So all of those things compile, right? And so that's one way, is that they just don't have the opportunities that they used to have. And to be specific, though, like my daughter, I have one child, I have a daughter who is huge into debate. She's a sophomore going into junior year next year, and she's going to be the debate president next year. And, she got up in front of the school board last month, the month before, and spoke about the fact that, it's very difficult when you're in a public school environment in Texas and you're doing debate and you're competing against kids that are in private school environments. And in our school system, our debate teacher can't teach certain topics. Like Afro-pessimism is a critique that debate kids use a lot. We can't teach that in our school. Our teacher, our debate coach cannot teach that. That puts our kids at a disadvantage when they go to tournaments where they are up against kids that they understand that topic. So our kids are told, sorry, you could go hire a private coach, right? So that's very difficult. And that's just a tiny little example for my child, right? I guarantee you that is replicated for so many other subjects, so many other topics, for so many other dozens of students. And we're a small school district. We're not a huge, giant school district in the state of Texas. So,
Rachel, because as Kim's just describing there, she's giving this one example, but it's really multiplied across so many students, more than people can really count. What would your message be to people in their different communities who may be wondering how they come back from something similar? How do you rebuild? How do you knock the doors and convince people that there is a way forward again?
Yeah, don't give up. I've been working in our school board election since 2020 when my child was a 3-year-old in the school district, and it's don't give up. The message will get through. We banned 5,000 books. We're closing 2 schools. We have all these things happening, but something will get through, and don't stop paying attention. Keep advocating for your schools because the message will get through. The parents do care. The parents do want these opportunities for their kids, and they just get swayed by these more dog whistle type issues that are just really, they're gross, and but also they're not really impacting all of our kids, but they're making it where not every child is safe. So we kept fighting. We kept showing up. We kept speaking at board meetings. We knocked on 4,100 doors this year to get parents out to vote. We sent out mailers. We had our own community forums when the school district wasn't stepping in to host those. And just, you can't give up because, our kids are worth it. Our public school systems are worth it. If Austin's not going to do it for us, we can certainly do it at our local level.
Thank you so much, Rachel Wall, Kimberly Phoenix. It's good to see you. Thank you. And we're going to be right back after a quick break.